Imagine glancing over the skyline of Bilbao, Spain. As your eyes dance over the cityscape, there's one structure that unmistakably stands out, the Guggenheim Bilbao Museum. With its shimmering titanium facade, it seems almost otherworldly. But how did this masterpiece come to life in a city once gripped by economic decline? Go back to the early 1990s. Bilbao was striving to shake off its image as an old industrial hub. The factories that once powered its economy were fading, and something had to change. The city's leaders had a bold vision: turn Bilbao into a cultural hotspot. Here's an interesting fact. Back in those days, few outside Spain had even heard of Bilbao. Yet, the Basque government, brimming with ambition, made a gutsy move. They decided to invest a whopping $100 million to partner with a globally recognized name, the Solomon R. Guggenheim Foundation. Why the Guggenheim? Well, their museums in cities like New York were not just art houses. They were tourist magnets. Bilbao wanted a piece of that magic. Did you know that the Basque government predicted the museum would attract around 400,000 visitors annually? Some said those figures were way too optimistic, but as we'll see, Bilbao was in for a pleasant surprise. But it wasn't just about visitors. The museum was envisioned as a symbol, a beacon of modernity for Bilbao, a statement to the world that the city was reinventing itself. Choosing the museum's location was strategic too. Nestled beside the Nervion River, the intended site would bridge Bilbao's past with its glittering future. The river, once a lifeline for the city's industries, would now be the backdrop for a cultural revolution. However, an iconic museum required an iconic design. Enter Frank Gehry, a name synonymous with architectural innovation. But his vision for the Guggenheim Bilbao? Well, that's a story for the next chapter. But before we dive deeper into this topic, don't forget to hit that subscribe button below. You know those moments when you look at something and think, wow, who dreamt this up? That's precisely what many feel when they first lay eyes on the Guggenheim Bilbao, and the genius behind this dream. A man named Frank Gehry. Frank isn't your run-of-the-mill architect. He's got a flair for the unconventional. If most architects think in straight lines, Frank's mind wanders through twists and turns, and that's what sets him apart. Let's rewind a bit. When Frank was chosen to design the Guggenheim, he had one overarching goal: make it unique. And boy, did he deliver! But creating a masterpiece isn't as simple as putting pencil to paper. Here's a cool tidbit. Frank used a software called CATIA for the museum's design. Guess what? That software was originally for designing fighter jets. Talk about thinking outside the box. The museum's design is inspired by fish. Yep, you read that right. Fish. Frank has a fascination with them. If you look closely, you'll see the sleek, silvery curves of the building echoing the graceful movements of fish. It's nature meeting architecture. Frank's vision for the museum wasn't just about aesthetics. He wanted to connect the building to Bilbao's history. Remember the Nervion River we mentioned? Frank designed the museum to embrace it, with parts of the building almost touching the water. But here's the thing. Dreaming up a bold design is one thing. Turning that dream into a reality, that's a whole different ballgame. The Guggenheim's design was so groundbreaking that many wondered if it could even be built. It was like trying to put a puzzle together, but the pieces kept changing shape. Here's something you might not know. The building's shimmering exterior, it's made of titanium. And not just any titanium, but 33,000 super-thin sheets of it. It gives the museum that otherworldly glow. As the museum began taking shape, people started taking notice. There was a buzz in the air. Everyone, from locals to international media, watched in anticipation. Would Frank's ambitious vision come to life as he imagined? With a design as bold as the Guggenheim Bilbao, things were bound to get a bit rocky. Because as we all know, big dreams come with big challenges. First off, remember those swooping curves and edges Frank Gehry dreamed up? Well, they weren't just for show. These twists and turns, while stunning, made construction a real brain teaser. Imagine trying to build something that's never been built before. Here's a quirky fact. When builders first saw Gehry's designs, some thought they'd been handed a crumpled piece of paper by mistake. That's how unconventional the design was. Now picture this. You're a construction worker, it's your first day on the job, and you're handed a piece of titanium. This super light, super strong metal might be great for fighter jets, but for a building, that was uncharted territory. Speaking of titanium, did you know it's usually reserved for things like spaceships and submarines? Using it for a museum was truly out of the box. And guess what? That choice wasn't just for aesthetics. Titanium is super resilient. It doesn't corrode, which means it can take on Bilbao's rainy weather like a champ. But here's the kicker. Titanium isn't cheap. The price of the metal actually doubled during construction. Talk about a financial curveball, but with their eyes on the prize, the team pushed forward. And then there were the skeptics. Oh, the skeptics. Many believed the project was too ambitious, too costly. They whispered doubts. Is this museum really worth it? Is it just a shiny toy for the city? But with every challenge came a triumph. When faced with construction conundrums, the team found innovative solutions. They used 3D modeling to figure out those tricky curves. They consulted experts from around the world. The spirit of collaboration was strong. As months turned into years, something incredible happened. That crumpled paper vision began to stand tall, reflecting Bilbao's skies and waters. It was coming to life, piece by piece. By the time 1997 rolled around, all eyes were on Bilbao. The world waited with bated breath. And then, the big reveal. The Guggenheim Bilbao opened its doors, dazzling everyone who stepped inside. Looking back, it's clear. The hurdles, they were worth it because challenges shape masterpieces, and the Guggenheim Bilbao, it's a testament to that. Ever heard of the Bilbao effect? No? Well, strap in, because it's a wild ride. Picture this. Before the Guggenheim, Bilbao was sort of under the radar, but post-museum, the city transformed almost overnight. It was like Cinderella getting ready for the ball. Here's a jaw-dropper. In its first year alone, the Guggenheim Bilbao attracted over 1.3 million visitors. Remember when they expected 400,000? Yep, they smashed those predictions. Now let's talk money. Because who doesn't love a good success story? The museum's initial investment, around $100 million. But get this, within just 3 years, the museum had generated about $500 million for the local economy. Talk about return on investment. But it wasn't just about the cash. The museum breathed new life into Bilbao. Cafes buzzed with tourists, hotels popped up, streets came alive with art, music, and culture. The city was in full bloom. Here's something cool. The Bilbao effect became a term in urban planning. It means the power of cultural institutions like museums to totally revamp a city. It's about turning places people overlook into must-visit destinations. But wait, there's more. The Guggenheim didn't just change Bilbao's economy. It changed its image. From an industrial hub to a cultural icon, Bilbao's transformation was in the spotlight. Local businesses? They thrived. With more tourists came more demand. Local artisans, chefs, and shopkeepers found a global audience. Bilbao's unique blend of Basque culture got the recognition it deserved. Here's a fun tidbit. Did you know that after the Guggenheim opened, other cities tried to replicate its success? They wanted their own Bilbao effect. But as they say, lightning doesn't strike the same place twice. What worked for Bilbao was tailor-made for its unique spirit. As years rolled on, Bilbao's metamorphosis became a case study. Scholars, urban planners, and architects flock to understand its magic. How did a single museum turn a city's fate around? Beyond the architecture, inside the art. We've marveled at the museum's exterior, and now it's time to step inside. Because the Guggenheim Bilbao isn't just an architectural wonder, it's a treasure trove of art. Ready to explore? First off, the museum spans a whopping 24,000 square meters. That's a whole lot of space to fill with art. But don't worry, they've got that covered. The Guggenheim boasts over 100 exhibitions, and each one tells a unique story. Here's a neat fact. The museum's collection ranges from the mid-20th century to today. That means you get a mix of classics and modern masterpieces, a perfect blend of the past and the present. Ever heard of Richard Serra? His massive steel sculptures are a mainstay here. One of his works, called The Matter of Time, is so big it's spread across several rooms. Walking through it feels like stepping into another world. But it's not just about size. The Guggenheim prides itself on variety. Paintings, sculptures, electronic media, you name it, they've got it. Every visit feels like a new adventure. Now here's a fun little number. In its first 20 years, the museum hosted over 160 individual and group exhibitions. That's a lot of art. From iconic names like Andy Warhol to emerging talents, the Guggenheim is a celebration of creativity. Beyond the big names, the museum is passionate about spotlighting Basque and Spanish artists. It's a nod to its roots, a way of celebrating local talent on a global stage. The museum isn't just about visual art. They've got live performances, workshops, and film screenings too. There's always something happening. Ever been to a museum and felt a bit lost? Not here. The Guggenheim's design ensures a natural flow. Frank Gehry, being the genius he is, made sure visitors can wander seamlessly from one exhibit to the next. It's like a curated journey through art history. The Guggenheim Bilbao isn't just a pretty face. Inside its titanium walls lies a world of imagination. From towering sculptures to intimate paintings, every piece has a story of vision, passion, and the power of art. What's the legacy of this iconic museum, and where's it headed next? Let's start with a bold statement. The Guggenheim Bilbao isn't just a museum, it's a movement. Its rise transformed how cities view culture, architecture, and regeneration. It's the poster child for what's possible when creativity meets community. A fun fact for you. Since its inception, the Guggenheim has inspired over 20 cities to pitch their own versions of the museum. That's the power of the Bilbao effect we talked about. The museum's success sent a message: culture can be a catalyst for change. But what about the numbers? In over 2 decades, the museum has welcomed over 20 million visitors. That's like the entire population of Australia. And with each ticket sold, with each souvenir bought, Bilbao's local economy got a boost. Now let's talk environment. The Guggenheim's been a pioneer in sustainable museum practices. They're big on reducing carbon footprints, recycling, and even their lighting is eco-friendly. Future-focused? Absolutely. Speaking of the future, here's where things get exciting. The Guggenheim's always evolving. They're constantly updating exhibitions, bringing in fresh talents, and embracing new art forms. Virtual reality art, anyone? And education? Big on their list. The museum has programs for all ages, from kiddos to seniors. They believe art should be accessible, an experience everyone can dive into. But the future isn't just about the Guggenheim, it's about Bilbao. With the museum as its anchor, the city's set its sights on more groundbreaking projects. New cultural spaces, parks, and even tech hubs are in the works. Thank you for watching. Don't miss out on future videos. Be sure to subscribe to our channel.